We begin with breaking news at this hour. A manhunt is underway in Western Germany after a man wielding a knife killed at least 3 people in the city of Solingen. At least 8 other people suffered injuries, some of them life-threatening. Police say they are looking for a single assailant. The rampage occurred at a crowded festival in the city center.
Rescue workers tend to victims of a knife attack in Solingen as the festival organizer calls for calm.
Please, everyone, be quiet for a moment. We don't want to cause a panic, but a knife attack at the Fraunhofer Square has injured many people badly. Stay calm and keep your eyes open. The attacker has not been caught.
This area, earlier filled with thousands celebrating Solingen's 650th anniversary and the Festival of Diversity, is now cordoned off, with police and investigators working at the scene.
We're trying to get a concrete description of the perpetrator, but it's difficult because witnesses are in shock and unable to speak. They are all receiving care. We need to piece together all the information to continue the search for the perpetrator.
Witnesses say the attacker targeted people indiscriminately.
My thoughts are with the victims and their families. I can only pray that those severely injured will recover.
The festival, which began on Friday and was supposed to run through Sunday, has been cancelled as the search for the perpetrator continues.
DW security correspondent Thomas Sparrow is with me now in the studio. Thomas, give us the latest, including what, if anything, we know about the motive.
We still don't know much about the motive, but that has to do with the fact that the perpetrator has not yet been found. So authorities, both in North Rhine-Westphalia, but also federally, are obviously desperately looking for the perpetrator. And once that happens, they will be able to know more about the possible motivations. And that's why also there haven't been so many political reactions just yet coming from, let's say, the German Chancellor or any other high-ranking politicians. We have heard from Germany's Interior Minister. She stressed, or Nancy Faeser as the Interior Minister, she stressed essentially that they're shocked and that they're trying, on the one hand, to find the perpetrator, and on the other hand, that they're obviously trying to discuss and discover more about those motivations. So it's still an early stage. The analysis will come once the perpetrator is found, and the political reaction and the political debate will also depend specifically on when this person is found and what the motivations were behind this attack.
As you say, it's still early stages right now, but this might have something to do with the climate that we've all been living in for a while now. There's been a lot of speculation, even at these early hours. Was this a terrorist attack? Did this have anything to do with the far-right movement? We want to be very clear that authorities at this point have not categorized this attack.
The Interior Minister described it as a brutal attack, but it's specifically very important at these early stages to avoid any kind of speculation, because the motivation could go in any direction. So that's why, until authorities find the perpetrator, will they be in a capacity to inform the public about the reasons, the motivations behind the attack. But what does seem certain is that this will have an impact in the political discussion here in Germany, for example, when it comes to knife crimes. Already before this attack, there was a discussion in the country where the Interior Minister had said that it would be important for the country to toughen laws regarding knife crime, regarding knife possession, to, for example, shorten the permitted blade length that people might have in public. That was a debate that was already happening before.
As long as you're talking about knives, Let me ask you this. How common are these knife attacks in Germany for people who might not be familiar with what's happening internally here?
Germany is perceived as a safe country compared to maybe countries in other parts of the world. So maybe the number of knife attacks or knife incidents is not necessarily very big. That's not to say that it hasn't increased compared to, let's say, recent years. And that's also what, in part, has led to this debate about possibly toughening laws. But it's important to also be cautious with statistics because authorities, and in particular the police, have only been actually gathering those statistics for a few years. So experts have warned that it's important to not talk about a trend when it comes to an increase in knife incidents. But if you just look at the last few years, there does seem to be an increase there, and that's why authorities are discussing the possibility of toughening laws that are related to the possession of knives.
You mentioned just a little while ago, Thomas, that there's been very little political reaction thus far. What political reaction, at least, has there been?
Specifically from the Interior Minister, that is not necessarily uncommon in these kinds of situations. It first goes to the region where it happens. So we saw in our report the reaction coming from regional authorities. Then the next step is for the federal Interior Minister to give her views on this. So we had a written statement from Nancy Faeser. The next step, depending on the political debate and on the motivations that are found by authorities, would be to hear maybe from the German Chancellor, maybe from other high-ranking politicians in the country, but that is still unclear. It is possible that the Chancellor will have a reaction, but that reaction will obviously depend on what information comes out regarding that motivation of the perpetrator.
As you well know, there are going to be some regional elections next week in Germany. What impact might this attack have on German politics in general?
The regional elections are going to be in the eastern part of the country, so not where Solingen is located. Solingen is in the western part of the country. Nevertheless, there has been a very big debate already in the country about those regional elections, and in particular how the far-right party, the Alternative for Germany, could perform. They're around 30% of voter intention there, and they have already basically used the topic of violence in Germany's streets as a topic that, in their view, is a topic that where authorities have to be doing more. They have also linked that to the immigration debate in the country. Again, we don't know anything now about this particular situation in Solingen, but in the past, the AfD has been linking violence to the immigrant debate, and depending on how all this develops here, they will probably be tapping again into those fears. Again, it's important to stress, we still don't know who the perpetrator is. We still don't know what the motivation is. But what does seem certain is that it will have an impact on the debate in the country, in particular when it comes to knife possession in the country.
In fact, I will add there, Thomas, that we still don't even hear from authorities what the eyewitnesses may have been saying about a description of this perpetrator. That is a DW security correspondent, Thomas Sparrow. Many thanks, as always, Thomas. DW reporter Lewis Sanders is in the city of Solingen for us. Lewis, what's the latest from where you are?
Well, the atmosphere here is grim. I just spoke with one elderly woman who is coming here where the attack took place, and she just said, "I'm so sorry for what happened." You know, people are walking around. Business is still kind of quiet and calm at the moment, but people are starting to come around and you know, come to the place of what happened and just kind of give their condolences and express, you know, solidarity for the victims, right?
You can imagine there what people are going through, particularly those who are connected to those who were wounded or in fact killed. I imagine also that an attack like this, Lewis, affects a community's collective sense of security, especially when it comes to large outdoor events. After all, it's still summertime, the weather's still nice.
That's absolutely right. I mean, as you can see, there's police driving around. There's a heavy kind of police presence in this area. The manhunt continues. But as for the community and the people that were coming to this kind of festival, this festival was marking the 650th anniversary of the city, the founding of the city, and people just feel a huge sense of loss of security and safety. When people are targeted and killed and attacked in these kinds of events, we've seen this before in Germany. Whether it's in Trier, in Berlin, in other cities across Germany where there have been knife attacks, people just feel like their community has been targeted, right in their heart. And so the feeling of safety and security that they had beforehand, bringing out their children, bringing out their family, maybe their elderly parents, and just, enjoying the festivities, that now has been violated. And, right now we can't speak more about whether that will return in the coming hours once the perpetrator is caught, but he or she is still on the loose at the moment, and police are working hard to find them.
It looks like a ghost town behind you, Louis. At the very least, have you seen law enforcement in the area?
I have. In fact, right on the other side of here, if you were to look on the other side behind the camera, you would see a few police vehicles. It's not as heavy as when they cordoned off the entire area last night, but there is a presence. However, police have extended the manhunt beyond the city, created roadblocks outside of the city, to ensure that, maybe the perpetrator has gone out, has tried to flee, has tried to escape. We've seen that in previous attacks. So I think they're just trying to exhaust, all capabilities, all capacities at the moment to find out, to capture the perpetrator.
DW's Louis Sanders there. Many, many thanks, Louis.
Thank you.